evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're tuning in. This is our first regular season episode of The Buckets, brought to you by Backyard Sports. I got Bentley with me, I got Ryan with me. I'm still struggling with my voice, so I'm gonna mediate here tonight and let these guys talk at you a little bit. Ryan, how you doing, man? How you feeling after the first salvo of games here for the NBA regular season?
I'm pretty excited. I can't wait for the Rockets to play their first game tomorrow because they haven't played yet. As
We're
far
just
as
gonna ignore.
What?
We're gonna
What
ignore
happened?
that one. We got a do-over. We got a do-over in Houston.
Yeah, there's a mulligan tomorrow against the Spurs, game number 1.
Yeah.
No, I outside of the slate, I said this to Bentley. Outside of the slate being insane yesterday, where it's like, I think I drove my girlfriend crazy by switching like to 7 different games at once. Because I have League Pass, so I just like switch over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I love it. I just wish it was like 5 and 7 or like 6 and 6. Or like 8 and 6 or whatever it has to be to figure it out. You can still put people on national television, but man, that slate was awful. It's hard to come on the show and be like, I watched the games. It's like, clearly I did not watch 12 games. To everyone out there, shocker, I did not watch them all. But
we did our best to tune into everything we could.
Yeah, watch a lot of it, but did not watch all of it. Outside of that, great first 2 games. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. Bentley, how you feeling after the opening salvo?
I mean, I took the entire day off today just to watch every second of the whole slate, so I feel wonderful. My ego is a little bruised because Ryan beat me in one-on-one yesterday, but I had Crocs on, so such is life.
Such is life.
You would have killed me with regular shoes on, to be fair.
Well, we played like 2 dribble 1-on-1. I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, because I'd body you in the post if we played, as many dribbles as you want. It'd be like Nikola Jokic out there.
Only he was 6'2".
Dude, I got a sturdy base, bro. Like, just try to knock me over, all right? Try to knock me over.
A sturdy base, yeah.
Very low center of gravity.
Yeah.
I know how that works. All right, man. Well, let's jump into it. I want to get some takeaways from you guys. Bentley, I'll go to you first. What's one thing that maybe you didn't expect from this opening slate that you saw, or something that caught your eye? Something maybe you thought you knew that was confirmed, or maybe something you thought you knew that was incorrect, or you learned something?
So my first opinion here is something that we all knew, but I was still shocked by how evident it was on the court. The Wizards game last night was not good. The Wizards are a very bad basketball team, and that I'm not a huge fan of Wes Unseld Jr. Right? He's not right. I'm getting that right? Yeah, Wes Unseld's the coach. Yeah, Junior. Yeah. So I've never been the biggest fan of him as a coach. I didn't think he was a wonderful hire. We have a new regime in the front office now that was not Wes Unseld. They didn't hire Wes Unseld to coach this team, right? I don't imagine that whenever this team kind of makes a return to the playoff scenario, that he will be on the sidelines as a head coach. But here's what we got for now. And boy, was it a beautiful performance. They gave up 143 points to the Indiana Pacers. That's insane. And they were only out-rebounded by 6.
Yeah.
Like, if you give up 143, you think that typically how it goes is either the turnover margin is huge, or you get just completely out-rebounded and give up all of the second-chance points.
Yeah.
They only had 2 fewer rebounds and 2 fewer turnovers and 6 fewer rebounds. That's insane, man. This team is very, very bad.
Yeah, man. To just kind of put it in perspective as a fellow Wizards fan, I found myself last night struggling to piece together like wins for this team throughout the year, because while the Pacers do have good basketball players, right? They're one of the better, top half, right, of the good teams in the East. They're not a 140-point juggernaut on offense, right? They're not a 120-point-a-night juggernaut on offense either, right? So they shot like 65%. That's fucking unheard of in the NBA. And you mentioned the rebounds. Like, there wasn't a bunch of offensive rebounds. There wasn't a bunch of second chances. They were just getting wide open look after wide open look after wide open look. This team is so disengaged on the defensive end that they scored 102 points through there was 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had 102 points on the board, or 103, I think it was actually. But they had 100 plus points on the board with 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they were getting beaten so bad that they benched the starters for the rest of the game. That's how bad it was. That's how ugly it was.
Yep.
This is a bad team. This is a team that's going to be, if you want to watch a game that's going to be exciting, going back and forth and get a lot of points, teams are going to get real healthy against the Wizards. But this is not a team that's going to win many games this year. I took the under on them in wins in our show last week. I feel really good about it right now.
Yeah.
They might struggle to win 20. This might be a 65 loss team this year. It's going to be a struggle. Ryan, any thoughts on the Wizards? Or you want to jump into something else? You're muted, bud.
Sorry. They are the clear target in DFS. You're playing the Wizards. You take the best player against them. Hell, even the third best player. Probably feel pretty good against the Wizards. Indiana's not a pushover on offense. To be fair, I think they are a pretty run and gun team. I think they're kind of designed that way because I don't think they're amazing defensively either. But yeah, they're not good. The best defender is maybe Daniel Gafford, and I'm not sure Daniel Gafford's much of a player.
I guess they had a foul trouble either.
Like Avdia's fine defensively. The rest of the team's not great defensively. And they also want to try to outscore people. Like, I think that's kind of how they're built, right? Is like hope they just shoot better that night. And they're going to win some games that way. Like Jordan Poole's going to have crazy nights. I even said like against Indiana, Jordan Poole could go for 50. He missed like every three he took, but like he hits half those. He probably takes 20 more, and then we're doing all right. So I don't think they're that bad, but would not shock me if they're the worst in the East. I know I predicted them to be better than Detroit, but after game one, that doesn't look good. But we got 81 more to go, and I'm bound to be correct as I always am. So
yeah, they had 4 dudes in double digits at half, and we're getting fucking smoke checked.
Yep.
But one thing, I mean, for Wizards fans, if he's part of the future plan, Kyle Kuzma looks like he's evolving into a real threat offensively. He creating his own shot and looks a lot more comfortable. He was kind of Jack City out in LA. He looks a lot more under control, a lot more kind of efficient on the offensive side. But he had a great game last night offensively. Again, the team couldn't fucking stop a leaky faucet last night on defense, but it is what it is. Ryan, let's go to you, man. What's something you had for takeaway from last night's slate?
All right, so I got a couple things. I'll just hit on the first one, and a couple of these are going to be throwing Bentley a bone, which you have to do sometimes as a friend.
That's fair. Fair. We look out for ours here.
Yeah. Derek Lively, perfect fit for the Dallas team. I think we all predicted that to be really good. I think he is who we thought he was. What I like is that he scored more in that game than any game he did at Duke, which is impressive. I know that's it's expected to score more in the NBA, but he had a lot more games at Duke to score more than that. I think 13 was his high at Duke, and he had 18. Like he had 18 last night. Very efficient. Obviously, Luka's a big part of that, right? Like Luka having the lob threat, which Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber are not lob threats. I've said right. both those guys are below the rim protectors. I've said this many times. Like they're position guys, right? They get in the way, but they don't meet you at the apex to block your shot. They just kind of put their hands up and you got to go over them. But yeah, I think perfect fit there. I think that's a really good move for them. I was surprised how good he looked, honestly, and I thought he was going to look good, and I thought he looked better than I expected him to. But yeah, I think we all liked him. We thought he made sense. And I'm just excited that if he ever shows the ball skills that I think he does have, or the potential to have, I mean, that's a very good fit there with Luka. If he's not just a lob threat, if he's got a 3-point shot, maybe even a little bit of a ball handling ability. But yeah, I think that's great for them. And
yeah, it was impressive. When they needed a play, it seemed like he was the guy, right? Like there were a few moments in that game where there was a scramble for a ball or a big time offensive rebound. It was him making those plays. And you mentioned the lob threat, right? That plays really well with both Kyrie and Luka because they are playmakers like that. But I was impressed with his ability to really be an impactful player, not just necessarily a role player in a lot of situations. Bentley, I want to go to you, man. You're the resident Duke fan. Well, how'd you feel about Mr. Lively's performance?
So I on my sheet here, I kind of went down all the games and like took notes from what I kind of gathered, right? And I think this game has the most, followed closely by the Charlotte game, right? So I'll give you my thoughts on Lively first, and then I might hit on a couple other things in this game if you don't mind. Sure. So Lively did not start the game. He ended up playing 7 more minutes than did Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, who started the game at center for them, despite him having more fouls than did Kleber, which is a good sign for him, in my opinion, because that means that the coaching staff believes in his ability to stay on the court. Now, he only had 4 fouls, so he wasn't really in foul trouble, per se. But the fact that he came off the bench and had more fouls and more minutes than the starting center just solidifies my belief that he's going to have a very impactful role for this team going down the stretch. He had 16 and 10 in his very first NBA game. He was an extremely highly rated recruit coming out of high school. And so that in turn turns into be like, a pedigree kind of guy is how we like to tag these folks. And I think to come in and have that sort of impact into a game, and you laid it out well, anytime they really needed an impact play, if it wasn't Luka, it was Lively rolling to the bucket hard, right? He went 2 for 3 from the free throw line. You love that from a big man. He's able to make those in clutch situations. He did it in college. That's a skill that almost translates every time over to the NBA.
Yep.
I really love the fit. I have it written down here on my sheet. He's going to be the starter at some point this season. He's going to close the year as the starter at the center position for me. That's.
I think they're crazy if he's not maybe within the first month.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to depend on whether he can continue to replicate that. I don't see it changing necessarily because I think he's, as Ryan put it, right. We talked about how good of a fit we thought it was after the draft. It's clear after game 1 that we were right, and the Mavericks were right with that pick, right?
Yep.
Aaron, hold on to that thought. We had a good conversation last night about Kristaps, so we're going to get to that for sure.
Yeah. The Thunder, though, Luka, there was a lot of talk about him playing himself, coming into the season engaged in the best shape. I think that's probably confirmed. He had a triple-double in game 1. He looked good.
Yeah. Looked good, man. Engaged Luka is scary, Luka.
Yeah, I mean, he's out for blood this year, in my opinion. I know I think we all kind of struggled with the over-under for them last week. It was kind of a hazy area for us, not really having a good read on how the long-term effects of having Kyrie play alongside him could look. This game, obviously, there was another rookie that played in this game that I think most people tuned in to watch. I tuned in to watch. Okay, all right, well, not Ryan. I know he was there to watch Josh Green, but
Max Prosper and Josh Green, my guys.
I also have written down in my notes here that Josh Green should be the starter over Derrick Jones Jr.
Thank you.
I don't know why that's not the case. They're the same size. Derrick Jones has like 10 pounds listed on ESPN over Josh Green, but Josh Green's a better player, better defender, better shooter. I don't know why he played more minutes, but I don't know why he doesn't start. Makes no sense to me. That being said,
Wemby, genius, I guess. I don't know.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
And I'll let Ryan go off about Josh Green here in a second. I want to get this Wemby note in because it's just a fun fact to me. So Wemby, he didn't play a ton of minutes, played 23 minutes. He was extremely efficient, 6 for 9. And he was very impactful in those minutes. He did have one play that I thought was a little out of character for him. So all of the hype coming in this year was he's an elite defensive player, right? Similar to Evan Mobley. Well, I know Gary doesn't like when JJ Redick calls games, but I thought that he and RJ had a really good moment describing this play, and I saw it happen in real time. Luka has the ball in the post, on the right post, on the weak side, and it's only him and Tim Hardaway Jr. So Wemby, he slides off of Hardaway from the wing to double Luka on the post without waiting for the help side defense to rotate over to Hardaway. So Luka takes one dribble, pump fake, and then dishes it out to Hardaway for an open 3. And they highlighted it on the replay, but like that's a defensive lapse, right? Like you can't allow yourself to be sucked into the post play from a basically small forward and leave a shooter open on the wing without knowing that your help side defense is rotated over. I don't think that's alarming long term, but it just shows that like coming into the NBA, there's an automatic adjustment that needs to be made, right?
Yeah, for sure. I know I said Pop a moment ago too, fucking Jason Kidd, but the man who said hit me, I'm gonna spill some water on the floor. I need a free timeout here. Ryan, what are your thoughts? Wemby, Mavericks. What are your thoughts here?
None of that matters. Let's talk about Josh Green. Okay, that guy. Jason Kidd does not know basketball. I don't care how many assists he has. He clearly does not like guys who shoot, play defense, contribute to the team. He's like, you can't handle the ball, you don't play. Feels like that's how he treats everybody. And Josh Green can handle the ball a little bit, so it's not really that surprising that he's the best option at that spot. I complained about this last year before we even had this pod to Bentley multiple times. I said, why is Josh Green not playing? Like, this team looks better with Josh Green. They're over under their plus minus while he was on the floor was incredibly high in comparison to when he was off the floor. On off obviously has to be taken with a grain of salt, but it was such a wide margin for the entire year. He's got to play. That team is so much better with him. The Wembanyama comments, he was in foul trouble most of the time. Like Bentley said, I watched a lot of that game. Some of them were silly fouls where it's like a guy just drives by him and he catches him with his leg or something like that. Those are things he'll learn, just kind of like you said, Bentley. I do think there's some intellectual parts of the game that every rookie deals with. Hell, some guys under 5 years deal with that they still are trying to learn. Rotations. There's some guys in Houston that still struggle with that have been in the league a long time. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really good game. San Antonio's defense is not good. Outside, like Wembanyama in 3 years might anchor that defense, and he's going to get a lot of blocks and probably a lot of steals too, just because of his length. But like as a team defense, I don't think they're going to be good this year. So what can you really say about that? Because it's tough to do. What I will say is Luka looked really good defensively. That's one thing I'll give him a lot of credit for. Yeah. A guy who doesn't always give his all on defense because he gives so much on offense, and I understand why. But like looked engaged defensively basically from the get-go. And maybe it was the Wembanyama effect, like, oh, this is like I'm going to show this
rookie steal my time.
yeah. I'm the best player on the court, and he was clearly the best player on the court by a wide margin. I think if you can get just a 50% defense, Luka, all year, that team's good. Yeah. That team's not someone I want to play in a series for sure.
No.
Are they the best team in the West? No, but like they might. If that's what they get, that might be a top 4 team in the West.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit. I mean, from game one, right? But it felt a little bit like they had maybe kind of figured out the question mark that we had about how's this Luka Kyrie thing gonna work. It feels a lot like Kyrie's gonna be an off-ball guard when Luka's on the floor, and then they're gonna rotate, and he's gonna be the engine or the straw that stirs the drink when Luka's not on the floor. It felt like they had a good rotation in this game. We'll see how it goes going forward when they play a little better team as well. When push comes to shove, if they're going to regress back to some of the bad tendencies they had last year, or if they're going to be able to maintain this. Ryan, you mentioned the defense from Luka. If you just get him engaged, right, what he looked like last night, if that's what you get from him the rest of the year, he may win his MVP that we all kind of expect him to win eventually. That may come a little sooner than maybe we expect, right? Might come this year. He looks, when he's playing defense and when he's racking up triple-double like that, looks like one of the 2, 3, 4 best players in the entire world, honestly. Yep. Ryan, I know you said you had a couple other takeaways. Let's get to another one from you. You're muted, Buck.
Sorry, I'm gonna do it one more time too, just to third time's a charm. I'm eating and I don't want to be smacking on the mic. I'm gonna throw my last bone here to Bentley. Jalen Johnson looked great. The barely Duke player Jalen Johnson.
That's true.
He showed up on campus, played a couple games, and left.
COVID.
Yeah, it was a tough year.
Yeah, and probably some other things.
COVID.
with COVID. I was a buyer in the off season on him. I've talked about this before with y'all. I really liked him. I thought very good play finisher, which Atlanta needed. Another guy to finish the plays that Trey and DeJounte Murray kind of create. I thought he was a pretty good facilitator for his size. Like I always thought he was a good passer, not necessarily like an assist guy, but he moves the ball well. He rebounds. That guy's hustling, which is like, for a guy who probably thought he was the best player in the world in high school, like getting that guy to play like that is impressive. Because I think there were some motor issues and concerns for a little bit with him. Looked really good. The other guy who I thought looked really good, Cade Cunningham, looked really good. Not a Duke guy, no, sorry. That team is not built well for him to do well. They put him with 4 guys who cannot shoot in the starting lineup, and we're like, hey, do your best. And he was super efficient. He scored 30 points. I'm not sure he took a free throw. I think he was like a 60% shooter, scored 30 points, didn't take a free throw. I would like to see him get some free throws here and there, but that's not really his game. I think with shooters around him, he's gonna look like the first overall pick that a lot of people expect him to. I think right now it's just the team just doesn't have the personnel to do it, but because he can't continue to do that if they're packing the paint against him, because he likes to work in the mid range. That's kind of where his game is, and you can't have Asar and. You can't have your best shooter be a center turned power forward who has never been a shooter in his life, but is now the starting shooter on the team. They got guys, but it's just I think they got to figure it out. I don't love the coaching there, but he looked really good. And my last comment, just on what I saw, Tatum looked incredible. I think Kristaps starting and running the 2-guard Derek White why can't I think of his name? Drew Holiday combo with Tatum. There's so much space for Tatum to operate. I mean, he made it look easy. I'm just gonna say that. I think Kristaps opens up a lot for him as an outlet, but also as a space creator, pulling the big out. And Al Horford always did that too. But I think Robert Williams, to some extent, maybe caused some issues offensively because he was probably a negative offensively.
And, very limited offensively for sure.
Yeah, I think that team, that starting 5 is scary. They have some depth issues, but Tatum might have an easy career year if that continues to look like that, continuing through the season.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Aaron brought up resurrection of Kristaps. We talked about it last night, right? And I floated it out there as kind of lighthearted sarcasm, but like if Kristaps is going to be the best player on the Celtics, which he sort of looked like it last night with everything he was contributing. Yeah, it's one game. It's a small. But he looked rejuvenated. He looked energized. Like Luka, too, he was engaged. He had an edge defensively last night that we haven't seen from him since maybe his early days in New York before the injury. And if that's the Kristaps that Boston's going to get, if he's the best player on that team, Jesus Christ, like they're going to fucking win 100 games this year. It's unbelievable that if that's what they're getting, in addition to how good Tatum looked last night and Jaylen Brown, who only plays with one arm and still kills everybody, that's a pretty loaded roster. And the East looks really tough at the top. We're going to see Milwaukee tonight, but at the top of the East, it's kind of no holds barred right now if the Celtics are going to get that out of Kristaps on a regular basis. Bentley, what are your thoughts on some of the things Ryan brought up? I know you want to talk about the Duke players, so
I have so many thoughts. I have a whole sheet of notes over here, but I'll try to speak to the points that Ryan made. Right, I have written down on my note sheet here: Jalen Johnson should play more. Yeah. In my opinion, they should start Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu over Capella and Hunter and just embrace offense. Their coach, who he coached in Utah forever, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, Quinn Snyder. Ryan will appreciate this, was once a philosophy major at none other than Duke University, but whatever. We'll let that one slide. He was an offensive guy in Utah. He made Rudy Gobert a viable offensive option in the regular season, right? Of course. But I don't understand why this offense is not better. Now, I also have written down, and I fully believe this because I've watched him play a million games. Trae Young is not a winning basketball player. He is immensely talented. He can score, right? He had a terrible shooting night last night. He scored 23 points and had 14 made free throws. Yeah. Like, that's not great. He was 4 for 19 on FGAs. But regardless, he's not going to do that every night. He's going to go off some nights. He's going to have high-efficient shooting nights, whatever. Got it. I don't understand why they don't play Okongwu and Jalen Johnson more and just really lean into trying to outscore teams. Like, that's the strength of their team. Let DeJounte Murray guard the best player on the other team and then just try to score 150 points a night. To me, that's kind of the onus of this team. That's kind of what I see them doing the most if they want to be, successful.
It's kind of how the roster's constructed too, other than like the maybe the player who is the most out of place of anybody in the NBA now that Rudy Gobert is no longer in Utah. Clint Capella does not fit this roster.
Right.
Clint Capella fits a roster with James Harden in the pick and roll and all that when he was successful in Houston. Clint Capella is not. Trae Young's not a pick and roll guard.
No.
DeJounte Murray is not a pick and roll guard. Like, Clint Capella just doesn't fit this roster. I understand when they signed him, Clint Capella was on the rise and he can help a little bit defensively, but this roster has now evolved to exactly what you said. Just embrace it. Just be who you are. Go score a bunch of points, and we'll all want to watch you.
Yep. Now, the team that they played against, Charlotte, I just have one note. Brandon Miller looked really good, in my opinion. They were subbing him in and out for offense, defense at the end of the game. I think as the year progresses, Brandon Miller's defense will improve. That was one of his upsides coming out of college. He was able in college to defend the best player on the other team pretty much every night. He just kind of has to learn how the NBA defense works. My assumption is that he will start at some point throughout the year for Gordon Hayward, who inevitably will be injured, but also just based off of talent. Yeah, right, by the end of the month. But also just based off of talent and upside, I would assume that Brandon Miller gets a lot more playing time and will develop into potentially an elite level scorer and a very good defender. So to Ryan's next game that he talked about, Detroit, right? Obviously, Cunningham 30 points on 27 shots is not great. But when you don't shoot free throws, your points are going to be down, right? If you shoot 27 times, if you have 27 field goal attempts, the assumption is that you're probably going to get fouled on at least one of them. Like that, the numbers are just kind of there. Yeah. But I was impressed with their ability to run the double bigs at the same time with Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. They both had double doubles, which I mean is pretty impressive in my opinion, to have two bigs out there doing the same things on offense and defense and still end up like that. I'm a little bit worried, however, about Jaden Ivey. Didn't play a whole lot.
He set the record for me in fantasy sports. I dropped him after the first night.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he's great. They picked him in the lottery. At the time, I thought he could be very good next to Cade, and then we watched him a bunch of the rookie year, and it's like, well, he can't shoot. Dude. And Ryan mentioned it. They just don't really have the shooters on this team. They don't play Joe Harris a whole bunch, or at least they didn't last night, right? Only one game sample size. Got it. Understood. But Ryan said it perfectly. They put Cade with 4 non-shooters, and we're like, hey, go have fun. Make it work.
Figure it out, young blood.
Yeah, like... So, to continue on this game, the team that they played against, Miami, also might not be that good.
Woof.
They have a guy on their team named Nikola Jovic. Did not play. Coach's decision. What are we doing, Spo? This is year 2. Why are we not playing him? Detroit's not a good team. Play your young guys. I don't know. That didn't make sense to me. We all three here like Jovic. We think he has a lot of upside. You know, he's a big athletic kid. I'm not sure that not playing him was the best decision. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, Miami looks – I think Miami looked last night about how we talked about them this offseason. They were meh. We don't know what they're going to be. I don't really know. You know, they struggled mightily against Detroit at home. That's not good. It's not a good look. And
yeah.
outside of Bam and Jimmy Butler, who can come in kind of fits and spurts during a regular season, I don't know what's there. And it doesn't help that the guy they let walk out the door just splashed a bunch of threes in Cleveland,
right?
On the same night, scored 27, I think Strus had in his debut for Cleveland, and that's one of the guys they let walk out the door so they could pave the road for Lillard. And we talked about how much they whiffed on not getting him. So it looks like it's going to be a slog for Miami all year, and I feel pretty good about my under on them too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the game has kind of evolved, right? It's a lot of shooting, and then you've got your guys that do go to the rack, but it's not. You don't play back to the basket anymore like you used to, right? There's just not. Nikola Jokic is probably the one center that you really want to give it to him in the post, but oftentimes he's making a play in the post as opposed to just banging with guys. Yeah, it's the game's just evolved. It's evolved, and you don't have those guys like Hakeem and Ewing and all them fucking guys that just had their back to the basket and played right there under the rim.
Yeah.
Bring it back, Dad.
Yeah,
let's
right?
go. I back Bentley down when we play pickup games. Let's bring it back. Bring back the up and under. Bring it back.
Yes. Absolutely.
The dunks and 3-pointers, man. The two most valuable / efficient shots.
That's what we got. That's the game of basketball in 2023.
Yep.
For sure. You got anything else, Bentley, you want to check off there?
I have so many, man. Do you have a game that you want to hear about? Give me a game you want to hear about that we haven't talked about already. I'll give you some notes. Unless I don't have any.
I have on my intriguing matchup list Memphis, New Orleans.
Yep, I have notes on that one.
Okay.
Let me give you my notes, and then I don't have a ton of notes on this game, but I'll let you go. So the most exciting part about this game was that Brandon Ingram, of course, is now a playmaker. Point Brandon. He the numbers weren't like staggering for him in the assist department, but he was making very good plays. He was dishing the rock, I thought, when they gave it to him, like at the nail or in the high post even. I kid about that being the most exciting part. The most exciting part is that Zion is back and Zion is healthy, ladies and gentlemen. Splitting double teams, posterizing Jaren Jackson Jr., doing all of the hustle things that you love to see out of a supposedly superstar player, right? What I will say was a little concerning to me is that I told you guys this last night during the game. He does not look any smaller than he did last year.
He is not 260. They said that he was coming into this season at 260. That's a fucking bald-faced lie.
Yep.
That might be off by 50 pounds, to be honest. Because if he was 330 at his biggest, I would not be surprised if he's still over $3 billion.
Yeah.
Because I could, like you said in the tag, I couldn't see a difference. He looks the same. I still worry he's not going to play 50 games. Ugh. And he even talked in the offseason like dieting's hard. I get it, bro. But you're a $200 million, potentially $400 million NBA player. If you just get your act together and put down a cheeseburger, man, just don't order the McDouble, order the McSingle or something. Jesus Christ.
Hire a chef, dog. You can afford it.
You got all that fucking money.
Yep.
Jesus. They can make healthy food taste good. I promise.
Yes.
Promise.
I also thought Memphis looked a little lost on the offensive side of the board or offensive side of the court, but those were all the thoughts I had about that game. They struggled without Ja, like we all kind of predicted. Marcus Smart is not a replacement, and they lost Tyus Jones.
Yep.
Ryan, what do you think? I know you brought this game up.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on some of the things I thought were interesting. I thought the amount of people Memphis is missing from last year was what I found interesting. Desmond Bane kind of coming in as who we all like. We're all big Desmond Bane guys here, and I think people who watch a lot of Memphis games like him a lot, but he's a little bit of an unknown. I don't think he has the primary guy skill. He's like he's a
complimentary guy.
He's a hyper efficient second guy, right? Like that's which is like super valuable, right? Like I there's no criticism I'm giving him. I just think it's tough. If Jaren Jackson Jr. is not giving you the offensive support that you need, like where's it coming from? Zaire Williams? Maybe? Like this is the first time I've seen him get legit playing time in a while.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting. Their rotations. I like Jake LaRavia. I like David Roddy, but like I don't think any of these guys are giving you what you need on the boards. And I will give some credit to Xavier Tillman. I thought he looked really good for Memphis. And then my comments on New Orleans. I agree. Zion looked good. Very effective and stayed on the court, which is what you want him to be doing. Night and day from preseason. They looked awful in preseason. And I said that, I think, in our last spot, how bad they looked in the preseason. And I was
you said Ingram looked lost.
Yeah,
he was a fucking playmaker last night.
It was like the U.S. team like broke him or something. That's what I thought. I was like, because it was like, I'm not the primary guy. Like, what do I do, kind of thing. So I think this is probably helping him a little bit. Like, be the point where he has the ball in his hands. That probably is helping. Where it's not Anthony Edwards taking a lot of the shots. But yeah, I mean, if that's how that team plays, it's not another team I'd want to play. The West is just going to be so strong if that team's legit. Like, they're already so tough. Like, the Pelicans might be a top 4 team. We might have 7 top 4 teams in the West.
Yeah.
And I don't know who it's going to be at the end of the season.
For sure. One game I want to fly out there. We talked a lot about this team in the offseason, obviously, because there's always the jostling with draft capital and moving assets and how much Sam Presti likes to do that. But Chet Holmgren coming back was a big deal this offseason. They go on the road against what I think we all thought would be kind of a lower tier of the playoff teams in the East, Chicago, and really kind of boat race them by 20 on their home court. I want to get your thoughts. I'll go to you first, Ryan. What are your thoughts about OKC's debut here this season?
Yeah, I didn't think they played super well. I think they left a lot on the court and they blew them out. So if that doesn't show what they're capable of, I don't really know what does. SGA looks like he's picking up right where he left off, which was a top 5 guy in the NBA last year. Chet, obviously there's going to be growing pains with Chet. I think he'll look good defensively. I still think like some of his more unique offensive skills, he's going to have to find where he fits in on an NBA court with those skills, similar to Wembanyama in a lot of ways. Figure out where those skills fit in. I thought they looked good. They didn't look amazing, but like they might be a top 4 team in the West.
One of those 7.
Like that wouldn't shock me either. This was my comment about like the West might not have a 50-game winner because they're all going to beat the crap out of each other, and they all might finish with like 47, 48, 45, like all in that range. And the playoff
6 are going to be within a game of each other.
Yeah, like that would not shock me. And maybe Denver's the only like obvious like really good team, but Denver's not very deep. Like it doesn't take much for Denver to become a 48 win team. So I thought they played well. I just think they can play better.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we probably are going to have to remind ourselves of, and basketball fans in general out there, they're going to want to hate on Chet pretty quickly because of how hyped he was, and the comparisons with Wemby and yada yada because of their similar kind of stature. He's essentially a rookie again this year, right? Like he didn't play last year, so yeah, he was around the NBA team, but he didn't play NBA games last year, so that's one thing to consider. I mean, he was efficient last night though, right? He shot 57% or something from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. Wasn't a high volume guy, 4 for 7, but I think it was a pretty solid debut from him. And if they can score 124 points and not have to lean on him, I think they're going to be okay. Not that Chicago's a great defensive team, but 124 points is 124 points, and you only took 7 shots, right? Chet only took 7 shots. I think that's doing okay. And you mentioned SGA looked great. Bentley, what are your thoughts, OKC?
I just want to say, is it crazy that Chicago had the players only meeting after game 1?
Yeah.
I think that's insane. Like, guys, why were we not ready? Like, you waited 3 months, 4 months to not play, and then you didn't show up.
Can't get up for game 1. That's a tough look. Bentley, what are your thoughts, man?
I'm glad Ryan stole my nugget about the players only meeting because that's the smartest thing he's brought up all night long. No, that so I thought that they may not have played very well, but they shot the ball extremely well. Anytime you shoot 48% from three, that's impressive. And we kind of talked about during their offseason preview that this was a team that didn't have a lot of shooting, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we were wrong. Maybe they're just good at shooting now. Who knows? One positive note I will take from this game is Ousmane Dieng, last year's lottery pick, went 3 for 5 from downtown, and he's 6'9".
Yeah.
That's a dude who's gonna, if they can get him to buy in defensively and really hone those defensive skills, he can become one of those highly coveted 3-and-D guys that everybody in the world talks about in the NBA, right? He's super young, so they have the opportunity to kind of mold him into the player they want him to be. And if he's a guy that can come off the bench and light it up from downtown as well as engage defensively, that's a weapon that they have at their disposal.
They had 8 guys hit at least 2 threes in that game, and we talked about them not having shooting, and maybe they have too much. I don't know,
man.
That's a pretty incredible debut. I don't think they can keep it up, but
yeah,
it's still 8 guys hitting at least 2 threes from the Thunder. It's impressive.
Cason Wallace looked really good in his debut too. Another rookie. Yeah, 13 points
off the bench too.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good.
Any more efficient than that? 9 points on 3 shots.
Yep. They also have another weapon at their disposal that they chose to just not use last night for some reason. They played him for 2 minutes, and that is my boy Poku. I'm here to stand on the table for Pokuševski. Play my boy. He's 7 foot tall, lights out. I don't understand why Poku doesn't get more run in the NBA. It's crazy. Disrespectful.
I love it. Oh, man. All right, Ryan, going your way, man. What's a game that caught your eye?
Well, I mentioned the Memphis Pels game. Yeah, I think the only other one that I thought, outside of waiting for Houston's first game to happen, which I think is the most interesting thing in the NBA right now, the Cavs Nets game I found to be really interesting. I thought that was a very competitive game. I think what the Cavs did without their starting center and having to play Mobley at center, with Jared Allen being out, I thought that was really interesting. I did not expect them to shoot as many threes as they did. I know they brought in Strus and Georges Niang.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, Gorgeous Niang.
Built like a milkman.
Who? Yeah, he is. I was shocked. I mean, there was one play where Niang took a shot from the left wing and he missed short. It came back to him. He took another shot like 3 steps over, and then it came back to him, and then he passed it, I think, to Strus, who then took another 3. And I was like, this is an insane offense, especially for a team that was like scored a lot around the basket. Donovan Mitchell was really, and obviously Garland too, but Donovan Mitchell was really their outside threat, and they didn't have much else, with Okoro being an inside threat too. I thought that was really interesting. It was almost like the pendulum swing. And I thought Brooklyn looked okay, who I didn't expect to. Brooklyn, as I've said this before, but Brooklyn is the experiment of what happens if you just put 3-and-D guys on a team with Nicholas Claxton. Like, that's the whole thing. Obviously, Cam Thomas, like, shot out of his mind.
Yeah, he did.
That guy has no other skills and has not had any skills since he was at LSU, right?
Paul's flag on the play, sir. The very final possession of the game, he passed the ball and did not take the final shot.
I thought he passed it, got it back, and took it, didn't he?
Okay. Well, what I said was that he passed the ball on the final play. I didn't say that he didn't take the final shot. I said he passed the ball on what should have been the final shot of the game.
And to respect to him, like, he can make a lot of those crazy shots. Like, he is a microwave, as they say, right? But yeah, I think that team's interesting. For the Rockets' sake, I hope they're bad, but I think they're going to be a decent Eastern Conference team. Doesn't have the star power to like win a ton, but they have enough, like, just like they're like the Knicks in a lot of ways, where it's like they have enough good guys to like get the job done. And I think they're going to have an interesting season. So I thought that was a really weird matchup from a play style and some of the events that happened in
it. Yeah. Bentley, what other game you want to talk about?
Well, so I want to hit really quickly on the Cleveland game.
Yeah.
So in our I just pulled up the doc here, our Central Division offseason preview. I trashed Cleveland's offseason. And looking at this game last night, I stand by that. I know that they won, but I'm looking at the box score right now. I know Jared Allen didn't play, whatever, got it. They still played Karis LeVert 31 minutes.
He shot 8 fucking threes.
Yeah.
You can't win that way very often.
He's
not shooting 3 for 8 very often.
They have like 7 NBA guys, if you want to include LeVert in that. Like, I guess Niang is an NBA guy, so maybe 8. They're not a deep team. They're going to rely heavily on that starting 5 to win them games, and I don't know. Their over under was huge.
7-man rotation. It's crazy.
Yeah, they had an almost was like 46 win over under. It was mid 40s, I believe. Like that. I love their starting 5. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think this team is going to struggle down the stretch this year. If they get like 1 or 2 injuries, they could be in some real trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more note, not from that game, but from the Kings game. The Sacramento Kings shot 46% from the field and scored 130 points. That's crazy. That doesn't happen.
If they could, fucking unbelievable.
It's crazy, right? Their offense is elite. Yeah. If they like first game jitters, whatever, working some rust off. Maybe some of the starters didn't play a whole lot in the preseason. Once they get this thing locked in and into high gear in the regular season, we could see easily like some 140s from them. And they were elite last year.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch them. High on the League Pass rankings.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about a team, because it's clear to me that they didn't play an NBA team last night, because the Rockets still have not played their first game of the year. But Orlando looks pretty good. Orlando looks like they've got a pretty good roster assembled. Bentley, I'm going to go your way on them first, because your beloved Paolo Banchero is I think by the end of the season we're gonna be talking about him as a fringe, like the next elite guy, I believe, because it's clear to me that he's putting in the work on his jump shot, and that was really, for me, when he was coming out of Duke, that was the last step for me, because he has the motor on defense. He's not afraid to muddy it up a little bit. He's long, athletic, can score in the short to intermediate, but that jump shot was really, for me, wanted to see him work on it coming into the NBA. It's clear to me that he's put the work in, and I think he's just going to continue to grow. Talk to me about the Magic, man, and what you took away from their first game against a ghosty in Orlando.
So I wrote down in my note section here that they have too many guards in Orlando. They have so many backcourt players. They're gonna have to figure out that rotation somehow, whether that's through trade. I mean, I guess that's kind of their only option, right? Is trading one of these guards that they've got, and they have like 3 that they can choose from. Now, I know Cole Anthony just signed a deal. He signed an extension there. I don't know if that's like making him more attractive in a trade. I don't know what the deal is, but Banchero only took 6 shots last night. However, he took 7 free throws, which I love. I've said this long before we had this podcast. Elite scores in the NBA generate free throw attempts. Kevin Durant's MVP season, he took 10 free throws a game. Like that is things that superstars in the NBA do. Jason Tatum constantly at the free throw line, right? The centers, that's a little different because they get fouled on every single play, right? But your elite wing scorers, your elite guards, Derrick Rose, when he was winning his MVP and was like leading his team to the Eastern Conference Finals, he would tear it up in the paint and go to the free throw line, right? That's what elite scorers do. And Banchero took 7 free throws last night, and in only 28 minutes, right? I really, really liked to see that from him. Franz was the best player in this game yesterday. His stroke from downtown was there. He shot just under 50%, which is huge for him. Banchero, obviously he only had 12, right? Only took 6 shots, but he did all the other things, right? He had 5 rebounds, he had 5 assists. Like, he was there to facilitate and play off of Franz last night, which is another thing that elite players in the NBA are able to do. Franz, I think, is poised to take a huge jump this year, and I think you said it as well. Banchero ready to also make a leap. I don't know if he's going to jump nearly like as high as Franz, but I hope that he does for selfish reasons, obviously. They're going to battle back and forth all year long for who's the best player on that team. Wendell Carter Jr., I can't say enough good things about him. I really love his game. Obviously, they have so much talent on this roster that is just it's brewing in potential. They just need to kind of jump out of the bad analogy, out of the frying pan into the fire, right? Like they just really they're on the trampoline. They're waiting to be double bounced and kind of skyrocket into that upper echelon of Eastern Conference teams, I think.
Yeah, I got a buddy he's a diehard Magic fan. Shaq was his favorite player, etc. He was telling me how much last night he was getting pissed at Wendell Carter for shooting threes. Other than that, he had a great game, but he was like, God damn it, just like stop pretending, just don't do it. You're not a fucking 3-point shooting center, bro. He had a good game though. He had a good game, other than going 0 for 2 from 3, and neither of them looked very good. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Magic? I know you've been a little wishy-washy on them. You don't love the roster composition necessarily with how many backcourt players they do have, but it seemed to come together pretty good last night, albeit against a team that didn't show up or didn't play their first game, however we want to put it.
Yeah, I do not know what game you're talking about, but I will give my opinion on a hypothetical game. I mean, when you win by 30 on Orlando, not known for their offense last year, right? They were a slow-paced team, very slow.
All games in the 90s.
Yeah, I think they were a bottom 5 pace team. They might have even been 30th in pace. They were very slow, a methodical team. Got the right shots, didn't shoot a lot of threes. They looked really good. They're huge. Jonathan Isaac, I mean, makes them even bigger than they were before. And Jalen Green, when he tried to dunk on Jonathan Isaac and he just said no. It's hard to watch that length and be like, what do I do against this? I guess it made our offense look awful. They're really good defensively, I think, with their length, even if they're not maybe the most like technically gifted defensively, like across the board. Like I think Paolo has some limitations defensively. I think their length is going to do so much for them. Cole Anthony looked great. I've liked Cole Anthony for a while. I know Bentley doesn't because he's a North Carolina guy, but I've liked Cole Anthony for a while. I think like as a 6-man guy to bring in to score. I think he had 20 last night, I'm pretty sure. Just jumper after jumper, going past people. He's got the green light on that second team. I think that lineup is really interesting. I think they're going to be good. I think that's not a team you can sleep on anymore, right? Like they can run, which is something they didn't do last year. If they can run like that, if Franz Wagner, I said this in the group chat, if Franz Wagner shoots like that all year, they're going to be a top 4 East team. Which now I'm moving to the East for my top 4 teams.
We won't have 7 of those.
Yeah, there'd be 3 obvious ones, and everybody else fighting for 4. I mean that team's good. I think they got a lot of talent, and I think they're growing together, which has its benefits. I will say I was surprised to see Anthony Black not play till the very end of the game. I actually like that decision. I actually agree with that decision. I was just surprised to see it. I think Mosley did a good job of consolidating that guard lineup that I think is a concern that I had. Instead of just being like, we're going to throw all 4 guys out there and see what happens kind of thing. I think being like, hey, Anthony Black, you're going to come in as necessary, like big, when we're either losing or winning, and you're going to learn that way, and maybe some G League time. I think that's right, because I think Jalen Suggs is good. I think Markelle Fultz is good. I think, like I said, Cole Anthony's a good player. I think they have a really good 3-guard rotation right there, and Garrett Harris too, like another guy who's a great 3-and-D guy. Like I think Anthony Black needs time, and I think they're doing the right thing by giving him that away from the actual NBA court.
Two things to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
No,
go ahead.
Just real quick. Just two quick things, real quick. I'll be curious to see how the rotation changes throughout the year because obviously a 30-point win you can't necessarily gauge, but I look at like Banchero didn't get 30 minutes, Franz didn't get 30 minutes. Obviously I think we'll see that progress. Cole Anthony led the team in scoring. Obviously the game got out of hand and the second unit played a lot more. They had 7 guys in double figures, which bodes well for them as well. They were, Ryan, you said 30th. You were close. They were 29th in pace last year, right ahead of the Pistons. But yeah, I like the rotation. I will be curious to see kind of how it goes in games that are more competitive and not 30-point blowouts, because you look at Paolo should get 30, Franz should get 30, 35, 40, almost 40 minutes, right? They should be playing a lot more. But yeah, over to you, Bentley.
So 2 quick things. I disagree with Ryan saying that it was good that Anthony Black did not play a lot. Obviously, I was very high on him coming out of the draft, right? Got it, understood. But in 5 minutes, he scored 5 points, had an assist, and had 2 blocks. That's a guy that probably should get more than 5 minutes a game. I just in my opinion. Also, you mentioned Jalen Green challenging Jonathan Isaac at the rim. Some people might say that Jonathan Isaac baptized Jalen Green at the rim.
I thought he more January 6th him at the rim. I thought that was more.
Nice. Yeah, I think the injuries and the fact that he hasn't played a lot, we all kind of forget that like Jonathan Isaac used to do pull-ups in the rafters. Like that dude could put his feet in the fucking rim.
Yep.
When healthy, he's a guy that can kind of change things for you, especially on the defensive end, the way he can challenge. So, yeah, it was nice to see him healthy. I'd like to see him play a whole season. I think he could be a real big asset for that team if he can play the entire season. All right. Alibis here. Bentley, you got another one you want to touch base on?
I think we would be remiss if we did not mention that the Denver Nuggets are still the best team in the NBA. I know that they played 2 nights ago. Yeah, 82-0. Nikola Jokic still the best player in the world. Freaking Aaron Gordon is so good playing off of Jokic, man. Like that team is so complete. They're really, really freaking good. I was very impressed with them. I was extremely disappointed in the Lakers. Anthony Davis didn't score for the last 26 and a half minutes of that game.
After all that shit they talked coming into the game. He went into fucking street clothes and went and sat on a milk carton in the second half.
Yeah, that's a top 75 player of all time, just FYI, in case you guys forgot.
Yeah, sure.
I think the Lakers might struggle if LeBron continues to coast the way that he is, which I totally agree with his strategy of doing that.
I think he has to at this point.
Exactly.
At this point in his career. Yeah, I mean, if Anthony Davis can't pick up the slack, it might be.
Yeah.
Might be. Honestly, they might not be a top 4 team in the West, right?
They could be. Honestly, at their peak, they're not like terribly assembled. They're way better than last year.
Right. But Anthony Davis has to be Anthony Davis for them to be successful.
Yeah.
100%. The way the roster's constructed, right?
Yep.
Austin Reeves had a good game. LeBron's going to be the 38, 39-year-old guy that he is. And Anthony Davis has got to be Anthony Davis. He was not Anthony Davis last night. That's for goddamn sure.
Nope.
Yeah. Does anybody do we think that Nikola Jokic even picked up a basketball this offseason either? Like, how fucking unbelievably talented do you have to be to your entire offseason you're focused on your horse racing, and you just come in and throw a triple-double up in game 1? Right?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I think there's a good chance he picked up a basketball, but he really likes the persona of I don't care. I will say one thing about Denver. Michael Porter Jr. defensively and rebounding. If you remember our finals preview, I think all of us critiqued Michael Porter Jr. for his effort, his defensive effort, and his rebounding effort. Looked really good on that side of the floor in the game. If that, that's how you get better as a champion, right? Is you have to get better internally, because the law of more happens, right? Everybody wants more money, more playing time, more everything, right? So it has to be the guys you already have advancing you. If Michael Porter Jr. becomes a legit 3-and-D guy who also helps on the boards, he's already a 3 guy. If he's a D guy and the boards, I mean, that team's just even better.
Yep.
And I again, a top 4 West team that I would not want to play.
Not at all.
Top 4 West team.
They are very, very good.
Ryan, any safe rounds from you?
No, I hit everything. Like I said, excited for the Rockets to play the Spurs tomorrow to open their season. I think that's going to be a good game. A defensive juggernaut like the Rockets versus a defensive non-juggernaut like the Spurs should be a good time. I'm excited. I'm glad the season's back. I hope they stop doing these 12-game slates because they're awful. I know I already said it once and I'm complaining, but it makes it impossible to watch. I was watching Utah, and I am a massive opponent of Utah. Like, I don't want to see Tony Finau talking to other players. Like, who cares? I don't care about Tony Finau. He's a golf player. Stop. Right. Who cares? He's the only people that show up to Utah games. So, like, give me some other games to watch.
Yeah, it's a novel concept, and I'm sure the TV execs love it. But I agree. It's a bit much. NBA opening night should be two nights, maybe 3 nights. Let's capitalize on kind of midweek here and have a good time with it for sure. All right, we got about 13 minutes before kickoff. So as is our Thursday tradition, I'm going to get some picks from you guys. I got to grab the spread. I think it was 3.5 at one point. I want to check it again.
Oh, no, it's up to 10 now.
Or no, yeah, you're right. It was 9.5 when I looked at it last. So Buffalo's given 10 at home, coming off a really poor performance against New England. I think we all maybe are either hoping, if you're a Bills fan, you're hoping. If you're a Bills sympathizer like I am, you expect it. They've got to turn a corner at some point, right? Is tonight the night against the Bucs? Bentley, I'll go your way first. 10 points, Buffalo. Give me a winner, and you think they cover?
So Josh Allen in his career is 5-0 on Thursday Night Football with average margin of victory, 12.5 points. Give me the Bills and give me the points.
Yeah, buddy. I like the aggression. I like it. I like the confidence. Ryan, how do you feel about this one?
Well, the Lions aren't playing today, which is my usual prediction. Yeah, I mean, I have to take the Bills. I don't think the Bucs are a 500 team like they are right now. I do not think they're that good. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it. So yeah, I would take the Bills with the 10.
Yeah, I think we're going to make it a clean sweep. I like that they've gotten Dalton Kincaid involved in the pass game the last couple of weeks. I think that's going to give them maybe not the last couple, but the last couple of games he's played. I think that gives them a nice complement to what Diggs can do. He's the obvious horse there. They have committed a bit more to the run game. I'd like to see them continue to give it to Cook a little more. But yeah, give me the Bills. I'm pretty sure that they had a nice come to Jesus. Maybe it wasn't players only, but there were probably some heated exchanges this week during preparation for this game after really dropping the ball against New England, and I think they're going to salvage the season here. Give me the Bills by 2 tutties. I'm gonna lay the points as well.
Gary, do you think that Josh Allen wants to be Cam Rising when he grows up?
One can only hope.
Just throwing it to Kincaid all the time.
Kincaid, baby, throwing it to Kincaid. Yeah, they got to get him involved, man. He's a fucking otherworldly athlete. So
yeah.
All right. Closing thoughts here. I'm gonna go your way first, Ryan. What do you got? I know you're I don't know, you're in witness protection over there.
Yeah, this is a classified camera.
Yeah, we're on BTC. We're classified BTC. What are your closing thoughts for us here tonight?
Excited for the game tonight. It's unfortunate that Phoenix has so many injuries. I was hoping to see this matchup because I thought this would be a good test for Phoenix to see kind of where they are, because I think LA is a middling West team, like a middling West playoff team. So it's unfortunate. But yeah, it still should be a decent matchup. Kevin Durant can still carry a team on his own. And you'll get to see one of my boys, Eric Gordon, probably be the primary playmaker, him and Goodwin. So that should be interesting. And I hope I win on DFS tonight. That's really what's important. I broke even so far this year in 2 nights, so I consider that a success.
Beautiful. Hey, you're not losing money. You're not losing money.
Yep.
Bentley, what do you got for us? Closing thoughts here.
I think this year is going to be a lot of fun in the NBA. I know that that's probably like a cliche saying, right? I think the West is going to be extremely fun specifically, right? The top of the West is going to be absolutely wild. Probably one tier below the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are in a category of their own, right? But that freaking playoff race for 2 through 8 behind them, or 2 through 10, whatever it's going to be. I know Ryan said this in one of our off-season shows, but there could be like a 5-game difference between 2 and 10th place, like 2nd and 10th. Like, it's going to be nuts, and I'm here for all of it, man. Like, I'm very excited to watch. There's so many exciting storylines that we're going to be able to follow. Like, I really just hope for a clean season, no big injuries. That would be incredible. One thing that I have written down that we didn't mention, the freaking Clippers starting 5 looks phenomenal with Kawhi and PG.
Like he's rejuvenated, dude.
Yeah. Russ kind of buying into that traditional point guard role. Yeah. I think he only took like 7 shots or something like that. Like 7 shots. Ayton only took 4, excuse me. But yeah, I mean he played phenomenally. The Clippers, with the new resting rule, we're going to see more of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard than we have in previous years. They might be a little better than we give them credit for.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I don't disagree. The West is going to be competitive, but I do think it's like the Nuggets and kind of everybody else at this point. I'm still, the jury's still out for me on the Suns. Yeah, the Clippers did look good last night for sure. The jury's still out for me on the Suns. We'll see kind of how that mishmash of personalities comes together over the course of the season. But golly, it just looks like Denver just immediately hitting on all cylinders right out the fucking gate. Didn't miss a beat. So,
yep.
Health, of course. Health is a consideration. Ryan mentioned the depth. If they do have to dig a little deeper into that bench, it could be a little bit of a problem. But I expect the West to be very competitive. I expect the East to be very top heavy. And I don't know through one game that we saw anything that really would shake our understanding of it. But next week, I'm really excited. We're going to have several games to talk about and some nice takeaways. And as the weeks progress, we're gonna know what we know about teams more and more. We talk about the NFL like the first month doesn't really matter. The NBA, I feel like the first couple of weeks is when you start to really learn who's going to be who and you know what we're going to know about these teams as we go. Bentley and Ryan, I appreciate you. Excellent episode. Appreciate all the comments. Aaron, Dad, really appreciate it. We'll see y'all next week when we got more regular season action to talk about. Till then, we are